Hi everybody, MariaToso here. Welcome to my channel where I talk about all things emotional triggers, how to heal emotional reactivity at the root level, which is in the energy field of the body, which is not about changing your thoughts. It's about accessing the energy field of the body where the contracted energy is. We have identified the fact that people have emotional triggers, but we still tend to think, well, that you just need to think differently about it. And my approach is not about changing your thoughts, although that will happen, but that will come from the layer underneath the thoughts, which is the body. When we feel anxious, when we feel upset, when we feel triggered, yes, there's a story that ends up arising out of that, and that story does need to be stopped because it's often, he never, she always, that kind of thing. But where the real source of that is deep in the energy field of the body. So we will never get to that layer of the work unless we're willing to really listen to and be with the body in a very compassionate way. Now, in my coaching practice and my teaching of groups practice, I encounter a lot of clients, students that don't love the body, don't really want to be with the body, don't want to feel the body. And then the body becomes much like a neglected child, you might say, that never gets to come home from school and have a sweet adult ask, hey, how was your day? What happened? How do you feel about it? And that's essentially what I'm inviting you to do today. It's that checking in the way the best possible parent would have, or maybe did, but for most of us, that wasn't what happened, and that's why we didn't learn to do that self-check-in. And it's nice to do that at the end of the day at a minimum, but over time it'd be even nicer if we got good at doing it like in the moment all the time. And that requires being really, really present in the body. And that's why when you go through the Heal What Hurts process that I teach, the step 1 and step 2 have to do with being really aware of the breath and being really aware of the energy field of the body. And how do you do that, practically speaking? You notice your breath, you sit in meditation and notice how you breathe. Are you breathing all the way into the belly? Is your breath constricted in any way in the body? And working with that, you then move on to really work deeply with the energy field of the body, which simply means scanning the body. So if you were to, hold up your hand, for example, and you could close your eyes even and feel the energy present in the palm of your hand. Yeah, if you sit still for a moment and just focus all your awareness on the palm of your hand, you will likely notice a bit of like an energetic sensation, low-grade electricity, bubbly, tingly, something like that. And that is your presence, your life force, your prana, we say in yoga, in your hand. But that is present in your whole body, and presence is love. Presence is what the divine is, deep, now abiding in this moment presence. And we're hardly ever there. Most of us, most of the time, are in the mental realm figuring something out instead of being available right in the moment. And the way I teach people to be available in the moment is to scan the body and notice the breath, scan the body, notice the breath. And I didn't invent that. That's been practices for eons. The Vipassana technique is one that uses that, but many different meditation techniques will access the now, the moment, presence, by scanning the body and being really available in the body to whatever shows up. Now that sounds so simple, but it's not, because what happens when you notice everything in the body, and you could even try that in this moment, if you were to close your eyes for a moment and notice everything, say from the throat down through the heart, through the stomach, into the belly, and where is something uncomfortable? Where does the anxiety live in your body? And notice I said the anxiety as though it's ubiquitous. It's inside nearly every human being. There is a sense of anxiety, something unresolved. And things become unresolved if we move through our day, day after day, week after week, month after month, and whatever happens, all the little things that happen that upset us are never processed and released. It just becomes this generalized sense of tension and anxiety. And it's become, it's gotten to the point where we diagnose that I have anxiety, so I need this medication, or I have anxiety, so I need a glass of wine, or I have anxiety, so I need a chocolate bar. So we found all these ways that, might really help not feel the anxiety, but we never got underneath why the anxiety had accumulated in the first place. So my invitation to you is to notice in the moment. If you can spend even a few minutes every day scanning through your body, so the way you just did with your hands, feel both your hands, feel both your arms, feel both your feet, feel both your legs, feel the whole of the torso, feel the head, neck, and shoulders. So there's a sense of being truly in the body, that this tingly, alive energy of life itself is in the whole body as much of the time as possible. And there's an awareness of the breath. The word for breath in my native tongue, which is Danish, is the same word as spirit. So you become aware that you are a spiriting being. You are a being that is being breathed, or you might even say you are breathing this being. You're breathing life into this manifestation of you-ness. And what if your task in life, your primary task, is to heal you? That you are the divine, the spirit, the breath within your particular physical expression. And your first job and why you're here is to move deeply into the wounded, contracted places. In yoga, we call them some scars that make you react. And that everything that happens in your life is showing you where those some scars are, where those contracted places are. So that the act of feeling a trigger, big or small, because of something happening in the outer world, that is the sacred moment. It's like, there it is. There's my fear. It's sitting right in my stomach. Oh, it's in my belly. Oh, it's my throat that's kind of getting tight. My chest is getting tight. And the invitation is to be with that. Now, what we tend to do as we feel that feeling inside the energy field of the body when something happens, we make a story about it, right? So we make a story, all men are mean and bossy and want to dominate me. That could be a story. And then I'm off on that story. And that's where you have disciplines that will say, well, you have to question that thought and change that thought, and then everything is okay. But I would say that thought came from that contracted place in the body. That's where that story lives. So if I just change the thought, I'm not changing what produced the thought. Yeah? So I might say, okay, this is the story that's arising out of this, but I'm going to just not deal with the story of the thought about it for now. I'm simply going to bring all my divine presence, my capacity for being with something. I'm going to bring that to that place. So there's a contracted feeling in my chest because something happened in the outer world that triggered that place within me. I'm not going to get into a deep discussion with whatever it was out here or whoever it was out here that seemingly made me feel this way. I'm also not going to quickly change my mind about what I think about that is, because that doesn't really address this, but I'm going to be with it. So with that same energy that you felt present in your hand when you brought all your awareness to it, now you're going to take that awareness, can still leave it in your hand and your whole body, but you're going to focus it in on where in the body the contracted place is. Like in a very real focused way, draw awareness into, around the place that's contracted in the energy field of the body. You could even visualize it as light, and simply being with it. And thoughts, sort of a narrative about it, will want to arise, will want to sort of hijack you, because it's actually easier to be pissed off and angry about, you know, the story that wants to arise. It's easier to stay up there than it is to say, I'm not doing any stories right now, I'm just holding this place. And my favorite words, if I'm holding that kind of place within myself or guiding a client through it, is I'm here. I love you and I'm here. I love you and I'm here. And those are the very words we so want to hear from that other person or the other people or the group or the absent parent or the friend that is letting us down or the partner that's letting us down. And so we learn to, in a very real way, be with those places within ourselves. I'm here and I love you. I'm here and I love you. And so we move from hating on the anxiety that's showing up in the body to loving on the anxiety that's showing up in the body and listening to it. And then we might even, as we are with this place within, recognize that the feeling that's arising, that energetic, contracted feeling that's arising, if we stay with it and not try to change it, we're just kind of holding it, we might recognize it as an old feeling that's probably way older than the situation we're currently in. It might have roots that are way older, you know, and often as far back as, you know, 9 years old, 5 years old, or even earlier, where something happened that that felt like we were being abandoned, we were being excluded, we were not loved, didn't have a sense of safety, and that's being re-triggered because it was never released at the time. So here it is again. And now we get a chance to do what wasn't done probably at the time. We get a chance to be, I'm here and I love you. And we start to lessen the charge of this contraction within, so that next time this dynamic happens again in the outer world that made us react, the charge goes down just a little bit. And it gives us a little bit of a moment to, instead of reacting, which for most of us is, you know, the default setting, to think that something out there needs to be different for us not to feel something. And instead we draw in, and we're with it. And we sort of cultivate the capacity to be with a really uncomfortable feeling. Now, what makes a feeling extra uncomfortable, maybe unbearable, is when the story comes in. And Eckhart Tolle coined the phrase pain body. And I think that's what it is. It's the pain body, the malignant part of this story that wants to come in and tell a really sad story where someone else is the villain and we're the victim. And then that story starts to go. And that story is so painful to be in that you almost can't not reach for whatever your numbing agent is to make that story stop. But if you can catch yourself as that story starts up, and it's like, I'm not going into the story at all. I am just with the sensation in the body. I'm just with it. I'm just noticing it. I'm holding it. And I'm loving it the way I would a small scared child. Not telling them to feel any different, to be any different. I'm just holding them. It's just a scared little body, you know, this contracted place. And then it starts to shift. And it's not going to shift overnight. If this place has been in place within you for, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, It's not gonna in one go just disappear, but the charge will go down, the reactivity will start to lessen over and over. So that's the initial invitation of the Heal What Hurts work. And you know, there are deeper layers of that, but that alone, if you did nothing else but give yourself some time to be with what is arising within without creating a story about it, simply being with the feeling in the body, being willing to hold it. I'm here and I love you. That will take you, you know, quite far actually. So good luck with that. I'd love to hear from you. Comment, write me. This is kind of my favorite topic, is how can we release these emotional triggers so that they don't trip us up and drain our energy. Because when we're in reaction, our energy is leaking into a trigger drama instead of into the things we want to create in our lives. Yeah?